Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're standing, sit down. And if you're listening to this in the background, you might want to hit the screen because what I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind. That is the new intro for Employees of the Month that I've just made. I spent way too long on it because I don't know what I'm doing. I hope everybody's happy with it. I think it's very awesome. I'm very proud of it. But anyway, welcome to the Employees of the Month. I'm your host, Gary, aka Redneck with Internet Access. My co host tonight is the queen of the behind the scenes facts, the lovely Macarah.
Hi.
And Snailinator is not going to be joining us this week. He's not filling up to it. He had some stuff happen this week. Nothing too bad, but he'll be all right. He'll live. But he did suggest this movie, and he's not going to be here. He didn't finish his rewatch, and he didn't review it. So he will be banned from recommending movies for a while.
He's fired.
Not for Yeah, he's fired. Well, he's on probation at the moment. He's on probation. He got laid. He's laid off at the moment. Oh, and then also, unfortunately, we are missing Bob Rogers as well. He had some personal stuff he had to attend to, so unfortunately, we won't see his review this week. But hopefully, he'll be back with us soon as well. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and watch the trailer. Oh, I forgot to mention the movie this week is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, comedy, drama, a little bit of romance. Fantastic movie.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a significant picture. It is significant because it emphasizes democracy in action. I consider it a real privilege and a real experience to have played even a minor part under the distinguished direction of Frank Capra.
And I've not seen this before, by the way. This is the first time I'm watching this, and this is really cool. This is actually a really cool idea for a trailer. Frank Capra.
By far the greatest picture of filmdom's top director, three-time winner of the coveted Academy Award. The most timely, the most vital, the most significant picture ever to come out of Hollywood.
Also, let me just pause it right here. Jean Arthur, by the way, I'd never seen her anything before. She is so beautiful. And it's not like just because of her looks. Like, she's not like anything to write home about. But like, she's just so elegant, and like something that I really liked about this movie, which
It's
I'll
like
get into later.
classic TCM beauty, like kind of how,
Yes.
like if I look at like an old picture of my grandma when she was much younger, she looks just like that classic TCM beauty of it's just yeah.
Yes, and
Interesting.
it really is like just classic Turner, like classic Turner classic movies. Unfortunately, Ted Turner, the I think he founded Turner Classic. He passed away earlier this month, and it's really sad. He was also the owner of the Atlanta Braves, which, by the way, my Atlanta Braves, the best team in baseball right now. I'm not bragging or anything, but we're going to win the World Series. We're going to defeat the evil empire of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Just saying, we're going to win the World Series. But yeah, Ted Turner, Turner Classic Movies. He passed away earlier this month. It was really sad, but this movie, like, I love Turner Classic Movies, and this movie is just such a perfect example of like when you think of Turner Classic Movies, you think of movies like this. And but yeah, it's Jean Arthur. She's just so elegant and like graceful and like feminine. And I guess, and like I pointed out in my review, like Zendaya is like I get because like I looked her up. Apparently, she was like the it girl of the 30s and 40s, um, and somehow I'd never seen her, which I might have seen her before. But anyway, it's like the girl woman that's in everything now is Zendaya, and it's like she's not graceful. It's like she always looks like she has to fart. Like she's like look, she's not ugly, but
No, she's
like
not. But she's
she's
not like
not.
timeless, beautiful. Like
No,
a lot of these
no.
women back then were very elegant, but also very plain looking compared to like.
Yes, yes,
But they were very natural in the way they looked.
yeah.
Like they weren't all plastic like today's
They
Hollywood would
yeah,
actually.
they were normal looking women. And like and here's really the thing is that I'm normally not a fan of like the short haircuts on women. That's just personal preference. But
Hmm.
like all of the women in that era had like short haircuts and I think they're all just so
Well,
elegant and
yeah, because
beautiful.
it's like it was manageable then to have like the short hair, and then they would do it in those tight crimped waves, and it
Yeah.
was just beautiful. Like not a hair out of place. It was just that's
Mhm.
how they took pride in their appearances.
Yes. Yes. It's like, and I've tried to tell like a lot of my female friends and stuff. I'm like, like some of them they'll have like, their guy troubles and whatever. And I'm like, if you would like not get half naked and go to the bar with 10 pounds of makeup on, then you'd probably find you a man. It's not, they're not, you don't have to look like you're all perfect in every way. A lot of guys are trying to find like a more like just a normal woman, and a lot of them want to pretend like they're something they're not. And that's just not, like speaking as a man and like with a bunch of male friends, they always talk about how it's just, and me myself, it's like I just want a normal girl, and I know that they were movie stars, but they seem like just normal people. But
Yeah, pretty much.
and James Stewart, this was
A
his breakout
homespun
role
boy and a
apparently.
hard-boiled, worldly
Well,
wise girl in a picture carved out of the everyday lives of everyday Americans, with those inimitable Capra overtones of drama, laughter, and romance, plus the finest supporting cast ever assembled.
True, yeah, it has a legendary supporting cast. Yeah,
it would have been interesting what they would have how it would have been done and how well it would have been done if they had stuck with the original casting that the director wanted.
yeah, it would have been a completely different movie. Um, I
It
mean,
could have
the
it could
other
have
guy,
been good, but it could have been
yeah,
you never know.
it right. I mean, it could have been good, but it would have been a completely different movie. The
Mm-hmm.
acting styles are not the same at all.
Mm-mm.
Um, but I reckon it's probably everything. There's a couple other trailers here. I guess we could have watched. I probably should have pre-watched them and found a better like which one was the best. But we're professionals around here, so that's what. So we're done. We're gonna watch. We just watched that one. We're professionals. So the first review that got posted was for the users, and she gave it a 99. And I already seen why she gave it a 99 instead of 100. She commented on it might have been Rev Ramey's review. No, I think it was Caveat Ties. Anyway, she said it was like the abrupt ending made her dock at 1 point, which I can get that. And we'll touch a little bit more on the ending in PP Dribble's review. Um, he talked about it a little bit. Also, do you remember Schoolhouse Rock, Macarah?
I do.
I'm not going to play it because I don't know if anybody copyrights it, but um, Schoolhouse Rock was so good. Um, and personally, I give for the users the Lord Gary seal of approval for this week. She had my favorite review, even though it was the first review I read. I knew it was going to be my favorite as soon as I read it. I had to share it. She gets the Gary seal of approval this week, the Lord Gary seal of approval. She says this should be required viewing in every school from fourth grade on, including college/university. Frankly, I feel unqualified to review it only after only one watch. There's so much to unpack in this movie that I can already tell it'll benefit from repeat viewings, which is true. This is my second time watching it because I did watch it in high school, and there is a lot more to unpack the second time. It's a classic story of a small town man moving to a big city and encountering the cynicism, corruption therein. In addition to that, it's a scathing critique of American politicians' selfish actions once they get into office, while also being a reminder of the great ideals upon which that government was built. It also contains a little bit of civics lesson, which is sadly a neglected subject in schools these days. Well, then on top of all that, it's an inspirational tale about not giving up when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. And all of that is true. Nobody knows civics anymore. I mean, even my poor old mom. I was talking about this movie, and she was like, and she said, "Do governors really appoint senators if they die in office?" And I said, "Mama, you're a grown adult, and you didn't know, like." And I'm like, "Mama, at one point, you didn't vote on senators at all. They were all appointed by the state governors. We didn't originally get to vote on them at all." And she's like, "Well, I didn't know that." I'm like, that's. I mean, I know she's been out of school for a while, but like, you should know how the government works, and it's not her fault. It's not anybody's fault. I mean, if it's the public school system's failing. And I actually had a good talk with Blaine and I Miss Good Movies after Legally Blonde about it, and we were talking about how it's failing. Like here in Alabama, we spend 50% of the annual budget on education, but yet we still end up in the bottom five in every single educational metric, and
Mm-hmm.
except for I think like math. I think in math we're like 26th or 27th, but like in like reading we're bottom five. In writing, we're bottom five. In science, we're bottom, or in STEM, we're bottom five. Like we're bottom five in everything, but we spend in like unbelievable amounts of money on education. And it's like clearly somebody's getting rich, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like the public school systems are failing. I mean, I know people right now that went to my high school, and I'm not trying to hate on my high school. I mean, I liked my high school, but it wouldn't like we had so much downtime in school when I was in high school, and it's like, why were we not learning? I mean,
Mm.
I literally know somebody who graduated 3 years before I did. Seen him the other day, and we were talking, and I was saying something about World War II, and they said, "What was World War II again?" And I said, "Like what part?" And they were like, "Well, I know it had something to do with that Prince Prince Duke Ferdinand or something." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, and they were like, "So I'm not gonna say his name, Mustache Man." They was like, "Mustache Man was World War II, right? Or was he World War I?" And I'm like, "He was both." And I just I was like, in my head, I was thinking, how are we at this point where people don't even know World War II, like the most significant war in the last probably 1,000 years, and they don't know anything about it? Like
Nope.
that's sad. I mean, outside of the Crusades, I mean, it probably the most significant war in the last 3,000 years, really.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
the,
I gotta
but
get
they
off my
but they
soapbox.
but they know all about what influencer is wearing what and where they are.
Oh
And
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I don't even know any influencers. That's just how much that tells you how much I stay on social media. But they're always like, Billie Eilish is coming out with a new album and all this stuff. And it's like, well, that's all well and good. You should enjoy Billie Eilish. I mean, I can't stand Billie Eilish, but if you like Billie Eilish, good, enjoy Billie Eilish. But like, you should be putting your brain function ability above your Billie Eilish obsession first and
yeah,
foremost.
I have a family
Uh,
member who likes her, but I honestly could never even bothered to
oh
really
yeah,
care.
no, and see, it's like that's just not my kind of music anyway. And I don't hate on
Mhm.
nobody for liking her. The main reason I don't like her is because she was like her whole message to begin with was like body positivity and whatever. Because she's not like
She's thick.
yeah, I mean she's a bigger lady, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean personally, I don't really like skinny girls anyway. I mean skinny girls, I'm like, man, you need a burger. But anyway, um, she's like, but she's like, uh, body positivity, don't hate on people, whatever. And I was like, that's fine, wanting, telling people to love themselves, sure, I can get behind that to a certain extent. And then all of a sudden one day I seen an interview where she was like, you give a short guy a chance and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, or you don't give a short or give it. And for that matter, don't give an ugly guy a chance either, because they think that they're good as you or whatever. And I'm like, hold on a minute. It and your whole thing about like body positivity, like if you want people to not treat you bad because you're not super skinny, then why are you making fun of ugly dudes and short dudes? Like I don't have no problem with being short. Like I'm 6 foot tall, but that's not cool, man. And maybe I'm ugly, I don't know, but like that's not cool. You can't build your entire brand on body positivity and then make fun of short people and ugly people. Because she ain't a looker herself. She ain't no Anna de Armas, I'll just say that. Or is it Anna? I've never been able to pronounce it. Some people say Anna de Armas. What is it actually supposed to be?
Ana de Armas.
Anna de Armas, yeah. I don't know. I can't even pronounce the English word right. Anyway, I wanted to point this out. I said almost every line of this movie could be a poster. By the way, it should be required view. My 12th grade government and economics teacher made us watch it. Snailinator and me had the same teacher. He had to watch it too. Coach P was the literal best teacher I ever had in all 20 years of my life. And I told her that I was gonna expand on the story here. So we had a project where we had to make political parties and then campaign. So what we did was Coach P would take us all 35 of us, and he'd split us up into groups of 5. And he did this with every class. And he'd be like, all right, you need to make a political party. So you have to make a logo, you have to make a name, and you have to come up with like an official charter, like what your party believes. And then you have to select from your group of 5. You have to find a president and a vice president. And this, of course, this is an AP class, but
Mm-hmm.
like you have to find a president, vice president, and then you're all going to campaign against each other, and we're all going to have a big debate. He moderated, and of course, we had to vote. And the whole thing is basically trying to teach you how government works. Essentially, it was part of it. And
Mm-hmm.
like and that's what I really liked about his class. So he didn't get up there and just lecture, which I do enjoy history lecture just because I'm a history nerd. But a lot of people don't learn through lecture, and he would always make it interactive like this. He would always get interactive, and I know I'm spending way too much time on this, so we got to move on. But he would always get up and make it interactive, and so I really wanted to tell this part. So me and my other 4 people in my group, we were like Coach P, which his name wasn't Coach P. It's just we just called him that. We also called him Coach Palm Tree, and we also called him Coach PP, and we also called him. Anyway, I gotta stop. And we was like, Coach P, can we make our party anything we want? And he was like, within reason, yes. And I was like, define within reason. And he's like, you can't say that you're just gonna like bomb everybody and stuff like that. And I was like, so that's the only stipulation? He's like, sure. Well, we looked up the National Socialist of Germany party belief systems, and we just copy pasted it into our PowerPoint and turned it in. And he was like, and he called us up to his desk, and he was like, are you kidding me right now? We were like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I know what you're doing. And he was like, you told us we could. And he's like, dear God, go ahead. And so we got up there, and I was like, and I got to be the president, and my friend Logan, who he called Joe, but don't ask, he was vice president. And so we got up there and we started our debates, and our part of it was we had to show our slideshow that we turned in and explain each of our points before the day before, and then we debated the day after. And so part of our points was like, we're going to tax the poor out of existence. So we was like, we're going to raise taxes on like the bottom 10% by like 300%. And it was like, we was like, listen, Charles Darwin always said, we was like, Darwinism, we're going to tax the poor out of existence. and our party name was the National Strength or National Strength Workers of America instead of National German Workers Party. And I was like, "Yep, we're gonna tax, them, and we're gonna take people with who are short. We're gonna castrate them. We don't need those genes in America." And we ended up winning the election because me and Logan, who we called Joe, we ended up just gaslighting everybody into believing that we were actually cared or whatever. And we was like, well, listen, we're not gonna just start castrating everybody. It's gonna be very specific. And everybody was like, yeah, that works. And Coach P gets up there after everybody casts the ballots, and he's like, what you just did today proves how stupid people are. He said, y'all know that they literally turned in National Social German Worker Party material, and y'all voted them for him in. He said, y'all just voted in Mustache Man. And they all just started looking around, and he's like, Gary's group, because Gary, I went by Gary in high school anyway. Gary's a nickname. It's not my real name. But he said, Gary's group, I'm both incredibly proud and incredibly terrified of what y'all have just been able to accomplish here. And so the next year, I told some of my friends, and I said, hey.
You totally just trolled everybody.
Oh, yeah. He was like, I'm both incredibly proud of y'all for what y'all have been able to accomplish, being able to show this. And the rest of you, I'm incredibly disappointed, and I'm terrified for our future that all of y'all are going to be voting in this election. Because I was a senior in 23, and so we was all going to be able to vote in the 2024 presidential election.
Well, the fact that you guys were that smart to kind of like show how people can vote very stupidly.
Yeah, well, and like we weren't even really trying to do that. It just ended up happening because that's just the way politics are by nature. People don't pay attention.
They don't pay attention to a lot of the policies and a lot of the behaviors.
No, which is why this movie should be required viewing forever. And that was the other thing. Coach Palmer would get, or his name was Palmer. I didn't mean to say that, but anyway, he'd get up there and he would be like, Coach P would get up there and he'd be like, all right, so this is why socialism doesn't work. And he would sit up there and he would list off examples and stuff. He'd get on his soapbox and he'd be like, it's ignorant. It's ignorant, gentlemen and ladies. It's ignorant. Don't ever fall for it. Don't ever vote for a socialist. It never works. And it was so funny. Anyway, I was second, so I'm going to read mine. I said, we used to be a proper country. Now, that's kind of wild out of context. What I basically mean is talking about the elegance and the fact that they were able to make a movie about somebody being proud of America and wanting to save America and fight corruption. You know, nowadays, it's just people are too nihilistic for that, you know. And, of course, it was 1939. But, you know, we used to be a proper country where we would make patriotic movies. Now people are upset at, you know, just saying, I like America. Anyway, I said, okay, fine, I'll say more. For starters, Jefferson Smith is literally me. Just a small-time country boy obsessed with history, big, bright ideas, too stubborn to quit, and sort of a short fuse. The only difference is I'm not quite as naive. Jeff Smith is a fantastic role model for young men, and I don't say that because we are alike. I say it because of his actions. Jeff Smith represents what Congress is supposed to be, regular citizens serving their time and making and coming home. He filibusters for 24 hours straight just to stop corruption. He doesn't care about what people think of him or his name, or if his name is cleared. He is standing on principle. When he arrives, he isn't ready, but he rises to the occasion, commanding the floor, and by the end, wins the respect he deserves. James Stewart and Gene Arthur put in literally some of the best performances of the entire 20th century. The emotion, the subtle facial expressions, the body language. I misspelled the. It's a masterpiece. Well, I'm praising, and I'm not going to read all that. I already said all that stuff. And yeah, I fully stand by all that. Like Jeff Smith, I know this kind of sounds shallow because I'm so much like him, but he really is just a fantastic role model. We need more Jeff Smiths in the world. And Mr. Smith Scared Stupid is my favorite, but that's a good one too. I've kind of been hogging the stage here, Macarah, if you wanted to say anything.
No, you're good. I mean,
okay. I've kind of been hogging the stage. I don't want to hog it. You know, if you want to say something, just cut me off, and I'll stop.
I usually just like add commentary or a little joke.
Right. Well, the problem is that is that my middle name is pedantic, and ADHD is my game. So I can't help it sometimes. Also, Rev Ramy, this if I didn't see this video, I'm not gonna like, actually play it, but it's like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and he it's this meme right here where he takes the American flag and throws it through the guy's chest. And this video is if this video is a perfect example of what Mr. Smith Goes to Washington would be like if it was filmed in the 90s. Tell me I'm wrong. If Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was in the 90s or the 80s, they're like the action star era, that's what it would be. He would throw an American flag through the guy's chest. But anyway, um, I wanted to point out a very specific because Rev Ramy somehow is even more pedantic and long winded than me, which is impressive. Just saying something. I've been kind of short winded lately, but anyway, I wanted to point out this specific paragraph right here because it is so true. He says there's a heavy focus on boys and the role they play in politics in the movie. There's a bunch of boy rangers, team of Boy Scouts, since Boy Scouts of America didn't want their name associated with the movie. Also, it's so sad. The Boy Scouts, they changed the name to just Scouts of America because we got to let women in now. You know, we got to let women in. You know, can't have an all boys group. That's sexist. Anyway,
Even though there's Girl
directly,
Scouts.
yeah, even though there's Girl Scouts. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, just the simple fact that there is a dichotomy between Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So, like, oh, that's
It's
sexist.
it's so stupid because it's like the whole point is you got Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They're not
Yeah.
supposed to mix.
Well, and nowadays though, you're supposed to be able to turn your boys into girls. So, and
Yeah.
or they're supposed to be able to be Zers and Zims. So, the fact that you want to say there's a boys and a Girl Scouts is like, well, there's more than boys and girl. Anyway, I need to stop soapboxing and tangent.
Stupid.
But anyway, serving it directly in the Senate chambers, escorting notes to Smith while cheering him on from the Raptors. A group of boy rangers also play a key part in countering Taylor's propaganda using an unspecified Western state, while it's the governor's own sons who convince him to appoint Smith in the first place. Heck, the entire movie's plot revolves around Smith's bill, which would enable the boys of the nation to participate in a camp that teaches responsibilities, ethics, patriotism, and practical skills. There's a clear sentiment that the investment in the next generation and capturing their love and dedication is key to making positive changes within America. This is the part that I was talking about is so important. He says, I'll reread that. There's a clear sentiment that an investment in the next generation and capturing their love and dedication is key to making positive change within America. This proves to be a timeless sentiment since we're currently seeing contemporary politicians suffer in the polls and word of mouth precisely because they're alienating young people via ignoring or outright dismissing issues that they care about. Though, as Thomas Massey's recent law shows, young people aren't enough to get you the vote needed when compared to frugal campaign funding. And that's so true because this is the reason why the left wants schools so bad. It's because they don't have kids, and you have to get the next generation. So how do you get the next generation if you don't have kids? You indoctrinate the other kids. Now, I put up a poll when you listen to Fools and Mob Rules group very recently. I said, who's more likely to radicalize you? Your own side's propaganda or the opposition's actions? And this is the thing. With adults, I feel like it's the opposition's actions because actions speak louder than words. And I know that's a cliche, but it's real. Like it is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're kids are malleable. You can mold a kid to be how you want them to be.
Sponges.
Exactly. They're sponges. They're learning and they're developing. They're still figuring out their who they want to be, who they are in the first place. You ask any psychologist, and the teen years are the most important years for a self-identity. Like when you're figuring out who you are, what you want to be, what
some
you like.
kids will surprise you and be quite they'll be quite smart to smell bullshit,
Right.
but they are usually, but not all the time, especially if they're they get it at home and then they get it at school.
Right. And that's and there are going to be outliers, but primarily kids are going to gravitate to whatever they're told. Now they say that's not true, right? But there was one family I grew up with. They moved here from Boston. Now how they found my little hole in the wall town with 1,000 people, doesn't have a red light. We got one stop sign. We don't. We all we have is a post office and a couple gas stations. That's it. And how they found my little town, I have no clue. But they were from Boston and they were big libs. Now, how in the world did they have 4 daughters and all 4 daughters ended up gay? If it's not social contagion,
Hmm.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that there's not some people who are born gay. They obviously are, but there is a social contagion to it. You can be convinced that you are gay by being around it enough or being told.
Look how many celebrity kids are coming out being trans, and
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like
And like I said,
they didn't decide to be that way. Their
yeah,
parents decided for them.
exactly. And the oldest daughter ended up moving to, and that's the thing. After they all got older, they moved away because we're just a bunch of racist rednecks or something. Even though, I mean, we literally got Mexican people, black people. We have a family of refugees from Belize that I graduated with. And she was also pretty lib, but it's because she's an immigrant and their whole family listened to Democrat media. But um, and it's like we, it's not. I mean, it's not like I live in like an all white place. I mean, I'm in Alabama. I mean, it's one of the most diverse states in the country. Like, and that's what's so funny is they always say it's like, people in the South, they're all racist, whatever. And it's like, no, we actually live and work and be friends with people of other races. Like, we're the actual tolerant ones. You're the ones who live in your gated community and don't let them in. I'm just saying. But anyway, and it's like they all left because we're supposedly a bunch of racist bigots or something. Um, and the oldest daughter moved to California. She become trans, so she's a man now, or thinks she's a man now. The middle 2 daughters, one moved to Atlanta, and then the other one moved also to California. They're both lesbian, and then the youngest daughter, um, I think she graduated last year. Anyway, I don't know where she moved, but she became a lesbian right before she graduated. So it's like, and they're the only ones in the entire town, and it's like that's not just by sheer chance. Like that's social contagion if I've ever seen it. So I really wanted to give him props for that right there. He hit it right on the head, and I think it's not. No, it was a different one. For the user's review or what comment or what she said. But anyway, now Macarah, your review. I'm a little bit disappointed with the
I
score.
know.
It's all right. It's all right. Listen, that's why we have Employees a Month
Well, it's
because
like
it's
I know it's a good movie, but it's not something like I would watch over and over
right.
and
Right.
over.
Well, that's why we do Employees a Month. We want different opinions, and I did like I mentioned this last week, which nobody probably watched last week because I was by myself with like no energy whatsoever. I don't blame them. I wouldn't have watched last week either. But I said it last week with caveat ties because he graded. We did London Has Fallen, and I did it on London Has Fallen, and he gave it that a low score, and I was like, I'm disappointed, but like I said, that's why we do it. We want to see different opinions and different perspectives,
Mhm.
and we want that's why we do it. We want to see different people and how they
Well,
think
it's
and
like
how they
I can acknowledge when it's a good movie, but I'm
right,
going by watching experience. Like,
right,
would I
right,
watch it again? Would I recommend it? My 62 is I would recommend it but
oh
I
yeah,
wouldn't. But a higher score says I'd watch it again.
yeah, exactly. And anyway, now let's get to the queen of the behind the scenes. I'm very proud of myself for that nickname. Thank you very much.
Well,
I'll be
thank
here
you.
all week. That's the first good nickname I've come up with in about a year, but I'm very proud of it. Anyway, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a landmark political drama or comedy drama. The movie follows Jeff Smith, a naive and idealistic leader of the Boy Rangers who is unexpectedly appointed to the United States Senate. Once in Washington, D.C., his wholesome patriotism collides head on with a corrupt political machine. Frank Capra, who, when directing the film, marked it as the definitive peak of his signature. I don't actually know how to pronounce that word, by the way. Capra-esque style stories where pure-hearted and everyman triumph over some systemic greed. Which, by the way, this movie can be considered a Western. Think about it. You've got one man up against a corrupt machine. That's a Western. I mean, I know it doesn't hit all of, it doesn't hit all of the things, but that's a Western. I mean, Western is a very poorly defined genre anyway, because you got movies that don't take place in the Old West that are considered Westerns, and movies that take place in the Old West but are not considered Westerns.
Well, because it's like they're putting tropes, but with a different.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like Star Wars is a space Western because you've got a small ragtag group against a corrupt political entity, and it's a one-man hero against the world, whatever.
I mean, you got Han that's literally dressed like a space cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, he is. Yeah, he literally is. I mean, the millennium. Yeah, you take. Well, even Jaws is a Western, really, if you think about it. You've got the corrupt mayor. You've got the rugged cowboy that comes into town. You've got the old school sheriff, whatever. It's like and then of course there's a big, I guess you could call it, shootout at the end, like. And of course, the shark represents like the thugs that come into town, and you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like, if you think about it, Jaws is a Western. Which, by the way, I need to tell Blaine that, because that just popped into my head. I need to tell Blaine that and see if he still.
I don't think it'll change his 50.
It won't change his mind, and I'm never going to let him live it down either. About once a month, I try to remind him about it. I'll comment on like one of the YouTube videos or something, or I'll comment on one of his reviews. About once a month, I try and remind him. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, sorry. Let's see. Teaches him ropes Washington politics. Claude Rains plays a conflicted, corrupt Senator Joseph Payne. He does a fantastic job with that. I forgot to mention that in my review. Washington is depicted as a corrupt, powerful machine led by special interests and cynical figures like Jim Taylor. Upon release, the movie deeply angered real-life Washington politicians and journalists who felt it painted the U.S. government as inherently crooked. Well, were you giving a reason for people to think that? I still ask this question with current politicians, because more often than not, there's been people that claim to be one thing and then reveal who they really are once the smoke dissipates and the mirrors shatter. And it's like I always say, people get mad at like the term, like, I'm not going to say it, but like men who like men and people who are below 70 IQ. And it's like, well, if you don't want to be called one of those, then don't be one of those, It's not that hard. So if you don't want to be called corrupt, don't be corrupt. To achieve, and here's exactly. And it's like, if you're innocent, if you're not corrupt, then why are you upset? To achieve an authentically hoarse, gravelly voice for the climax. This right here is super cool, by the way. Well, to achieve an authentically hoarse, gravelly voice for the climax, Stewart worked with a throat doctor who dropped a chemical solution, mercury dichloride, directly near his vocal cords to temporarily dry out and rasp his voice. By the way, do you think that they knew that mercury was bad for you at the time? Like, when did we figure? Like, I should know this as the self-proclaimed history nerd. When did we figure out that mercury was bad for you?
Good question, but again, back then they really pushed the envelope for getting into the character.
Yeah.
Like back then, they went full on Christian Bale in it for getting ready for a role,
Okay, so Pliny the Younger actually documented toxicity from mercury, which he was a first century Roman. That's actually crazy. 18th century, so 1700s Italian physician Bernardo Ramanzini published a foundational book on occupational diseases outlining the severe tremors, and health consequences faced by mercury miners. The mid 50s, the neurological crisis, modern era of recognizing highly toxic organic mercury. Okay, so here it is. The modern era of recognizing highly toxic was the 50s. So I guess hadn't really hit mainstream at that point. It was, I think it hit mainstream in the 50s from what I can tell, which this is Google AI, so take that with a grain of salt. Google AI is kind of dumb, but so I guess they hadn't really figured it out yet. That's kind of scary though to think about. But anyway, super cool to know. Where did I end off at? Okay, because filming inside the real U.S. Senate was strictly forbidden, Columbia Pictures constructed a massive, near full-scale replica of the Senate chamber on a Hollywood soundstage. Capra took endless photos of the real chamber to replicate microscopic details, including a specific gouge in Jefferson Davis's desk, located in or kicked in by a Union soldier. Which, by the way, they did a fantastic job. I thought it was the actual Senate chamber, like, to be completely fair. And the fact that how many people would actually know that Jefferson Davis's desk had a dent in it? You know,
Yeah.
nobody, but they still did it. Like, wish we still had that attention to detail. I was actually talking about Jefferson Davis today, by the way. I'm not. I know that's like a touchy subject or whatever. You're not supposed to talk about the Confederacy, but I was talking about President Jefferson Davis today. I guess he's not President Jefferson Davis since they lost, but you know what I mean. To avoid constantly moving heavy equipment across a massive three-tiered set before rostrum and galleries, Haber pioneered a multi. Hold on, I gotta get a drink of water. My throat's dry. Pioneered a multiple camera, multiple sound setup to capture natural reaction shots from hundreds of extras simultaneously. The role of Jefferson Smith was originally written for Gary Cooper. Studio head Harry Kahn refused to loan him out, clearing the path for 30-year-old James Stewart to take his breakout leading role. So that's where it was I read it. I knew I'd read it somewhere. It was in your review. Lead John Arthur reportedly did not bond with Stewart off-screen during production and initially disliked his acting style, wearing that his performance was too cute compared with Gary Cooper's masculine screen presence. This film is used as a political trope to describe an ordinary, idealistic outsider who enters a cynical political establishment and attempts to bring about reform. Congressmen in the Washington press corps slammed the film as anti-American and communist propaganda because it exposed government graft. There were even attempts by the U.S. ambassador to the U.K. to suppress its foreign release. I'm a little mad. Some of our review is really behind the scenes facts and then opinions. By the way, I guess you're feeling better.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little better. Kinda. I've been feeling like crap, and I probably will all week.
I hate that, but I know what you mean. I've been very fortunate. Normally in the spring, the pollen hits me like crazy. But I mean, I live out in the middle of the woods, so I mean, I wake up in the morning and go crank the truck, and our truck's red, right? When I crank the truck in the morning in the spring, it ain't red, it's yellow. That's not a joke, by the way. It's literally like the color yellow when I go crank it in the mornings. That's not a joke. I have to spray it off with a water hose every morning, just so that, like. And here's the thing: if I don't, when I shut the door, it literally comes off the door and starts like floating down. Because I mean, again, I'm sitting in the middle of a bunch of trees. Like, duh, that's my own fault. But I've been very fortunate this year. I have not gotten sick.
That's
Fingers
good.
crossed, knock on wood. I've not gotten sick, and I'm very,
Yeah.
very, very fortunate.
Yeah, mine isn't so much like sick, like pollen or allergies. Mine's more of I don't sleep and then I have bad headaches.
Yeah, I know what you mean. My neck hurting last night. Was giving me a headache, but caveat ties. Glad to have you back, sir. He was back last week too, but just got to make sure he knows that I'm glad he's back. Do love the portrayal of the movie in this one. It's a solid piece of movie's history with some great performances and elements of nice tension amid the fish out of water story. At points, the movie drags. In addition, the ending draws out some great tension, but resolves itself too suddenly for the audience to catch its breath during the climax. That's what she said. I wish I would have remembered. I was gonna pull up the Michael Scott. I was gonna pull up Michael Scott and switch it like last second. Um, okay, hold on. I need to actually share the screen. Okay, hold on.
I love lawyer jokes.
Well, it's probably because you don't get.
Hold on. I'm gonna reread what he said. All right, but resolves itself too suddenly for the audience to catch its breath during the climax.
Get them.
When I said before that I was king of forwards, you
I
gotta
give
understand.
up. Never mind. Abandon ship. Abandon ship. I gave up. I give up. I failed. I tried to be funny. No, let's not try and be funny. Anyway, good review. Score. Disappointed with the score, but it is what it is. PP dribble, 68%. I'm surprised this movie made it into past the Hays Code, which was strictly enforced this time. The Production Code Administration did tweak the screenplay a little bit. However, the release version tells us that democracy can be saved if honest, moral representatives are elected. The original script had a more nihilistic view of democracy, giving the message that Congress and the press will always be hopelessly corrupt. Personally, I think the tragic ending would have been a lot more impactful. And that's a fair thought. What do you think about that, Macarah? I'm kind of torn. Like, I think it's kind of vague enough that kind of if you wanted it to be disappointing, like you could kind of just believe that it's disappointing. But at the same time, I kind of like the hopeful ending rather than the dark ending. But I see where he's coming from. So I actually want to hear what you think about that specifically.
Um, I wasn't really like disappointed, but I felt like yeah, they could have done more with it.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, good.
I mean, like I've been disappointed by endings before, and sometimes it's like most movies suffer from like really good starts and really poor endings. And again, it's like people don't know how to end a movie.
Yeah,
Like it's like people who like I struggle with ending books, and so it's like okay, well I gotta
yeah,
really figure out how I'm gonna make this so that people are more satisfied with the ending. But I can't please everybody. So
yeah. That's actually something I struggle with, but not like writing books. So, like for instance, um, actually, I was going to point this out at the end, but I'll go ahead and point it out. So, because we have such a problem today with people like not knowing their civics and stuff, I've taken it upon myself to be everybody's personal a history teacher. So, like for instance, I've been working on that absolutely massive review of frontiersmen, men who built America, and I'm gonna share. Not trying to like shout myself out or anything, but like I've been hard at work. Like I've got sources, you know, but that's kind of what I struggle with when I'm doing this. Is like I don't know how to end I don't know how to end it. Pretty much that's my problem I'm having too. But yeah, I'm taking it upon myself to try and be everyone's personal history teacher. So if y'all know anybody who needs history teacher, just tell them to follow me on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Sorry, Elon. Follow me on Twitter because that's where I post them first, or
well, I
follow
do
me
that.
on
I
Criticless
do that too. I'm
because
like, I hate calling it X. I like calling it Twitter.
I'm not calling it X. But or follow me here on Criticless because I'm posting them on
But
Criticless as well.
that sounds
So
like it should be something else, not just social media. But
yeah, well, I know what you mean. And,
but I know it's
um,
like named after his kid and all, but it's just a weird thing to call
yeah,
something.
it's what's that one corn star, the one that had the baby and everybody's like making the memes.
I don't know.
Uh, it's like uh It was like I remember her name was like the same as like a microphone brand or something. It was like, or maybe it was headphone Bose or something like
Hmm.
Lucy Bose or something. I don't know. There was like that one. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it was anyway. It sounds like It's X sounds like a platform she would be on rather than a social media platform. But anyway, that is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. We hope that you. I hope that you've all enjoyed. Um, I don't like to do this because I sound like I'm begging or something. But if you wouldn't mind, if you want to leave a little like button, that would be really nice. I would really appreciate it. The like button turns into like a little film reel when you hit it. So if you want to, it doesn't matter. But anyway, this has been the Employees of the Month. We'll see you later.
Bye.